again, party people, and welcome back to the channel. In this smoking hot video, I continue exposing the lies that the anti-Incares and the fake crime channels continue to tell about Nichol Kessinger. These people have absolutely no evidence to back up anything they say, yet this doesn't stop them from spewing complete nonsense. The anti-Incares are great at taking things out of context to suit their needs, and to mislead their audiences in order to make money. No other person, in the Chris Watts case, was investigated more than Nichol Kessinger. Kessinger was interviewed and investigated by the police, as much as, or even more than, Chris Watts. Yet the anti-Incares want another investigation of Kessinger. It's simply unreal. Until the anti-Incares provide some credible piece of evidence that I can investigate for them, I'm going to continue exposing their fake allegations against Kessinger. There is no evidence that Kessinger even owned a steel gray truck, because she owned a white Toyota 4Runner. Obviously, a person is not allowed to sell someone else's vehicle. Therefore, there is also no evidence that Kessinger sold a steel gray truck after the murders, like these silly anti-Incares say she did. The truck Kessinger talked about selling is her white Toyota 4Runner. If Kessinger owned two trucks, then she would have used the plural word trucks. Kessinger pre-ordered white touch-up paint for her Toyota truck, and Chris picked it up and delivered it to her.
So I need Hazel to help me out with his lease and sell my truck.
Some anti-Incares falsely claim that Kessinger said that she didn't know Chris was married. This is total horseshit, because Kessinger talked about Chris's wife and kids in their first emails. Then, Kessinger told the FBI and cop Kevin that she knew Chris had a wife.
I met Chris at work. He's not like one of my direct coworkers. He just works kind of in passing in the same office building as me. I met him, I don't know, probably around the beginning of June, maybe before that. And we kind of talked in passing and then started to get to know each other. We started hanging out pretty frequently around, I want to say the last week of June, somewhere around there. And have continued to talk until then. He informed me that he did have two kids. I knew that he had two daughters. He also told me that he was currently in the process of a separation from his wife.
Okay. So can you just take us through kind of a little bit of the early part of how he courted you or you courted him? I don't know which one happened. How you guys got to know each other?
I guess we just started talking. He actually, so part of my job is to manage the gas monitors that we have. So Anadarko requires all of their field personnel to carry gas monitor sensors for toxic gases, and it's my job to control the inventory, any issues, anything like that. And we were having some pretty serious equipment issues, and we had numerous amounts of people coming in my office one day, and he happened to be one of them. And I'd seen him before, they meet in the lunchroom, and that's where I go put my lunch in the fridge. So I'd seen him, but I didn't ever talk to him. So that day we just started talking, and then every time I saw him in the hallway after that, and it was always hit or miss, it wasn't an everyday thing, it was just when I saw him, we just started talking, and we just kind of had a lot in common and just hit it off, so we'd always have, pretty good conversations, and then, I don't know, one day he told me that he had kids and started talking about his kids, and then mentioned, yes, that I have a wife, but we're getting separated. I said, okay. And then
When do you think that was?
when he said all that,
So specifically when he told you he was getting separated from his wife, was that within the first couple of weeks that you knew him, or was that later on? You said you met him around May or June.
yeah, it was still in June.
Okay.
It would have been before Father's Day.
So had you guys ever gone out on any kind of
No.
date at that time? You just
No,
were
no.
conversing at work?
Yeah, that's all it was.
Kessinger told the FBI that she never knew or met Chris before meeting him at work.
Just let you know that I've been spending time with Chris, and that's as far as this got. So that's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. So prior to June, did you know him? Did you guys have did you know him, any relationship, didn't know him at all?
No, I didn't know him at all.
Kessinger told the FBI that she never knew or met Chris before meeting him at work. Kessinger told Cop Kevin that they only talked at work, and Chris told her about his kids and his wife before Father's Day. Father's Day in 2018 was on Sunday, June 17th. Kessinger's email proves that Chris told Kessinger about his wife and his kids no later than June 12th. Kessinger told Cop Kevin that they then stopped having personal chats on Chris's work phone. Therefore, they stopped chatting on Chris's work phone after the June 12th email. Kessinger told the FBI that she and Chris only started hanging out at the end of June. Kessinger told Cop Kevin that her first meeting with Chris outside of work was when they met for 2 hours at a park near her house. This meeting occurred after Father's Day, June 17th, and before June 28th. However, this park meeting was not between June 22nd and 26th, because Chris and Shannon were in San Diego between June 22nd and June 26th. Kessinger then told Cop Kevin that their first meeting was at the end of June, and before her birthday on July 3rd. Therefore, their first meeting outside of work was between June 27th and June 28th. And since Kessinger went away with her friends on June 29th, the text messages between Chris and Kessinger that I am going to show you proves that their first meeting was on June 27th, and their first sexual encounter occurred on June 28th. So anti-NKers who say Chris and Kessinger were already together when Shannon posted her, "Oops, we did it again" video on May 29th are wrong.
I don't know. We started hanging out. We hung out. We went to a park. Hung out at a park.
Let's go back real quick. So why did he tell you that he was getting a divorce? Did he ask you out at that time?
No, he didn't. I think he was probably interested in me. And so he talked to me a couple times via his work phone, and I was like, no. Like, it was still very, like, friendly conversation. But then when I realized, like, this man is interested in me, I'm interested in him, this is personal, so we got away from the Anadarko thing because I really don't want those guys affiliated with any of this. At that point, we just like took it to his phone because I just felt it was like better that way. And we just continued to talk, and then
Let me go back to the park. Where's the park?
it's like down the street from my house. It's called East Lake Number 3.
Your house
Yes.
in North Glen?
Yes.
And that was in the June time frame.
Or like the beginning of July. It was like right around my birthday. It's like so sometime at the very end of June or the beginning of July.
Okay.
Frank flew to Colorado to watch the kids while Chris and Shannon were in San Diego.
We're live. So we're on a 2-hour cruise here in San Diego. It's absolutely gorgeous here.
This San Diego trip was the same trip when Nicole Atkinson said she hated Shannon.
I hate you.
Frank and Shannon then flew back to North Carolina with the kids on June 27th. Now, it appears Chris met Kessinger in the park on June 27th, right after Shannon flew to North Carolina. But it also appears Chris banged Kessinger for the very first time on June 28th. Kessinger said it wasn't immediately on their first meet outside of work, so the first ceremonious bang was probably on the 28th, and it's clear that Chris spent the night with Kessinger on the 28th.
Was the relationship was it sexual right off the bat?
Pretty close. I mean, like, once we got it to be, like, where we're hanging out outside of work, yeah. I mean, it wasn't, like, immediate, but shortly following that, yes. And then it just continued.
Okay. Pretty consistently throughout the relationship. So kind of hot and heavy.
Kessinger went away with friends June 29th until July 3rd. This is why Chris's June 29th text says he'll miss her body sleeping next to him tonight, which proves he slept with her the night before on June 28th.
It was 1 week where I just, like, went out of town with my friends for my birthday. I wasn't even around the whole, like, last few days of June up until the 3rd of July. I was, like, gone.
Kessinger went away with friends June 29th to July 3rd. July 3rd was Kessinger's birthday. On the morning of July 4th, Kessinger went to Chris's house, and Chris gave her his belated birthday gift. After the birthday bang and some grilled chicken and carrots for dessert, Kessinger left, because Chris went to a July 4th fireworks show with Nick and Amanda Thayer.
And it was on the 4th of July, it was the morning of the 4th, and I was helping him to set up MyFitnessPal app and, like, track his food, his calories and stuff, because he does pretty good with the working out and stuff. And he asked me, he's like, can you help me just, like, get this dialed in? It's like, yeah, I can do that. So that he invited me up to the house, and I was already kind of hesitant to do it because I was like, there are other people that live here, and I just felt like it was an invasion of space. And so I went up there, and we just stayed in that front room, and I helped him out with that, and got him all set up with that. And then, he asked me if I wanted lunch, and he grilled chicken and carrots. And then that's all he had. And I was like, okay, so we ate, and then I left.
Chris told Kessinger that he had a protein shake before going to the fireworks show. By 6:53 p.m., it started raining. Then, after the fireworks show, Chris drove over to Nick and Amanda's house. Then Chris left there and drove to Kessinger's apartment, arriving there at 11:02 p.m. Chris banged Kessinger again for the second time that day.
Is it accurate to say that sexually you were able to say, Nikki, this is what I would like, this is what I'm into, or blah, 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 and maybe not what Shanann?
No, Nikki just wanted, she wanted what she wanted. She wanted to do it pretty much all the time. I was like, okay, that's fine with me.
Chris flew to North Carolina on July 31st. Chris and Nichol hung out June 27th and 28th, and from July 4th to July 30th. Therefore, Chris and Nichol were really only together for 28 days before Chris went to North Carolina.
Even the old folks who never knew why they called it like they do. Yeah, I've been wondering since the age of 2, down on Copper Line, and Copperhead and Copper Beach, and Copper Kettle sitting side by each, and Copper Coil Cup of Georgia Peach, down on Copper Line. And half a mile down to Morgan Creek, I'm only living till the end of the week.
Chris left for work at 5:46 a.m. Monday morning, August 13th, and the house is locked up tight from inside the house. The only way out of the house is through the garage door. So if Kessinger was at Chris's house at 6:16 a.m. after Chris already left for work at 5:46 a.m., then how did Kessinger get out of his house and back into the imaginary gray truck that was allegedly parked in front of Betty's tree, in front of Betty's house, without Nate's camera seeing Kessinger walk from Chris's garage door? Betty never said that she saw a steel gray truck with a white camper shell on it. And at no time did Betty say that she saw a white truck parked in front of her tree. Betty was re-interviewed by BYOP, and Betty's husband was also interviewed. The anti-inquirers like to ignore real evidence like this, but too bad for them. Betty admitted that there was no second truck there that morning, and what she really saw was Chris's truck lights on. Betty's husband left for work that morning at 7 a.m., and he admitted that there was no truck parked there when he left for work. Betty didn't even need to be re-interviewed about the steel gray truck, because she corrected herself when she was first interviewed. Betty correctly stated it was late in the afternoon when she saw the steel gray truck parked in front of her tree. The steel gray truck Betty saw parked in front of her tree, with no markings or camper shell on it, was Baumhover's unmarked cop car that arrived late in the afternoon at 2:35 p.m. However, when Betty was first interviewed on Tuesday, August 14th, Betty first correctly stated that she saw Chris's truck lights on yesterday, Monday, at 5:15 a.m. Betty then incorrectly stated that she saw Chris's truck lights on Tuesday morning, which was the same day that she was being interviewed.
Now, I saw his truck leave yesterday. Maybe it was this morning. I was leaving for the gym. His truck had the lights on, which is unusual for that morning, 5:15 in the morning.
But Betty was confused. Chris didn't work Tuesday, and he wasn't inside his truck at 5:15 a.m. on Tuesday. Betty actually saw Chris's truck lights on Monday, which is exactly what she first told the cops when she was first interviewed, and it's exactly what Betty told BYOP when Betty was re-interviewed. So it's beyond laughable that anti-inquirers demand a reinvestigation of Kessinger based on a second truck being at Chris's house, when they haven't even read the discovery for themselves that already proves a second truck wasn't there, and instead, the anti-inquirers rely on the complete bullshit that fake crime channels spoon-feed them. So Betty didn't see Kessinger's truck Monday morning, but you can bet that several of Anadarko's 200 security cameras captured Kessinger arriving at the office in her white Toyota 4Runner, because that's what Kessinger drove to work Monday morning. I-25 also has traffic cameras, and Kessinger would have been seen on them while driving her white 4Runner to work that morning. The reason the police never collected this evidence is because the police already knew Kessinger was not involved in the murders. Cop Kevin told Kessinger that the police already knew Kessinger's locations from her cell phone.
The only reason I ask, and I'm not really concerned about your location. I think we already have your cell phone records. At some point, did Mark ask you to supply? Did they ask for consent to get cell phone records? That'll probably be done by warrant. If we wanted,
what you just did?
Nope. What I'm talking about is your movement.
Oh.
By GPS or by cell phone tower to show where you were. Obviously, and I don't want to cause you concern, we want to know where you were that day too. You're dating a man who did some egregious stuff, and we want to show that you were never near him that day. Period.
The anti-inquirers say Kessinger's phone pinged the Puritan Way Tower by Chris's house. They have no evidence to prove that this is even true. The anti-inquirers say that Kessinger pinged the tower by Chris's house because Kessinger's phone bill shows a ping in Frederick. However, Verizon has 13 cell phone towers in Frederick. So how do the anti-inquirers know it pinged the tower by Chris's house and not one of the other 12 towers in Frederick? They don't know. Just ask them, you'll see. If Kessinger drove to work via 120 Avenue and Highway 85, then the ping on a Verizon tower in Frederick would place Kessinger nowhere near Chris's house at 6:16 a.m. Because if she drove to work on Highway 85, the tower she pinged is located on the other side of Frederick. Kessinger told cop Kevin that she went to work on Monday, and, without any evidence at all to support her ridiculous claim, fake crime channel Annie Elise X10 to life told her 1.2 million subscribers that Kessinger only arrived at work at 2 p.m.
Did you see him at all on Monday? You said you didn't,
No.
right? Earlier.
I did not see
Okay.
him. And I went to work Monday.
Did he have-
Anyone following the case since 2018 would already know that Anadarko has over 200 cameras, and some are pointed directly at the punch clock. Therefore, these cameras would have seen Kessinger's vehicle arriving at work, seen her entering the building, and seen her punching in. Not only that, but Kessinger's co-workers already said that Kessinger was seen in the lunchroom that Monday morning. Kessinger told cop Kevin that she left work at 3 p.m. on Monday, and she got home at roughly 3:45 p.m. Kessinger received a text from Chris as soon as she got in her apartment. Meanwhile, Coonrod and Balhover only left Chris's house at 3:45 p.m., so Chris only texted Kessinger after they left. This proves Kessinger was home, but as we'll see, Kessinger has the time wrong.
I clocked out at 3 is what my time card says. That's what I was showing Mark the other day. And I got home to go meet my buddy. One of my good friends was coming over my house. And he actually has a key to my house, so he was actually there when I got there. And
Who's that?
My friend Jim. And so Jim came over, and I got home. He was there. He had just walked in the door. And I remember briefly after he got there, I checked my texts. I mean, briefly after I met up with Jim, I glanced at my texts, and Chris said something about my family's not home, or my wife and kids aren't home, something to that effect. And I told Mark, because he asked me for a time, and I don't have an exact time, but I remember it was right after I walked in.
That was a text message, though.
Yeah, it's in a text, and it's it was briefly after I walked in the door, so based off how long it takes me to get home from work and when I clocked out, it was probably about 3:45 p.m. Texts me and tells me that. And he knows when I get off of work too, so he doesn't always bug me if I'm busy. So I don't know what's up with that, but that's when he sends that to me. And
so you're saying that he would have known that you would have had your phone available to you and not been at work when he sent you that text message?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
So looking back at it, you think it was purposefully sent at that time?
I'm sure.
I'm just asking your feeling on that.
Yes, and then he said, "Call me when you can." And I was
There was no other communication between you and him that morning, on Monday morning?
Well, there was, but it was random.
But nothing about this event?
No.
About my wife's missing, or anything?
Nothing.
There is zero chance Kessinger knew during this August 16th interview that Balhover left Chris's house at 3:45 p.m. And there is zero chance she would make it home from Anadarko's office in 45 minutes during the busy 3 p.m. hour if she drove home via Highway 85, because there are 22 streetlights she must travel through. The fact that Kessinger got home within 45 minutes proves she must have taken the faster I-25 to get home. But we'll see later on in this video if this is true. I've already proven that Kessinger drove to work on I-25. It also proves that Kessinger pinged either the tower by Chris's house at 6:16 a.m. or she pinged the Verizon tower that is located further north in Frederick on I-25 and Belle Rosa Parkway. Since Kessinger punches a time card at work, it's obvious that she pinged the Belle Rosa tower. Otherwise, she would have been late for work. This is so because Kessinger was not late for work Monday. The tower by Chris's house is 16 miles from her office in Platteville, while the Bella Rosa Tower is only 8 miles away. Since Kessinger pinged a tower along I-25 in Frederick at 6:16 a.m., she could have only pinged the Bella Rosa Tower and still made it to work on time. Now, how do I know that the police already knew that Kessinger wasn't involved? Well, that's simple, so let me tell you about it. Behind Criminal Minds claims he did this extensive forensic evaluation of the discovery, and maybe he did, and if he did, then he deliberately left out critical information in his video to either get views and make money, or he just outright lied. Or maybe he didn't really do an extensive forensic discovery evaluation at all. At the end of this worldwide award-winning video, you can decide for yourself what he did, then tell me what you think in the comments section. Now, despite what the discovery says, Kessinger had a date with another guy Friday night, and they were meeting at the Rockies baseball game. Chris was watching the game on TV from home. Shannon asked Chris by text to put the car seats back in the SUV, and Chris said he would knock it out. Knock it out is a baseball reference, and Chris told Shannon this reference while he was watching the baseball game that Kessinger was at. But Chris lied to Shannon because Troy told the police that when he met with Chris on Friday afternoon, the two kids were in their car seats in the back of the SUV. Therefore, Chris had already put the car seats back in the car before he told Shannon that he would knock it out.
And he's driving the white Lexus?
Yes, sir. And Bill and CC were both in the back. They were buckled up in their car seat.
And they never showed up. And she'd already made plans with me. And,
Wait, what do you mean? She set up dates when she had plans with you?
Yeah.
Why would she do that?
I guess she kind of figured out they weren't going to show up. She went, I guess, when she went to the baseball game, they never showed up.
Kessinger's date didn't show up at the ball game, so Kessinger left the game early and drove to Chris's house and banged him in the basement bed after the kids were asleep. There is no way Chris would know Kessinger left the baseball game early unless they talked to each other on the phone, because they did not discuss Kessinger leaving the game early in text messages. And they did talk on the phone while Kessinger was at the game, and Chris talked Kessinger into coming to his house. Chris wrote his 11:20 p.m. text to Kessinger while he was waiting for Kessinger to arrive, because Kessinger left the game before 10:20 p.m. In Chris's 11:20 p.m. text, Chris doesn't tell Kessinger to get home safe, because Chris knows Kessinger is not headed home yet. In Chris's 12:40 a.m. text, Chris now tells Kessinger to get home safe, because Kessinger just left Chris's house. In Chris's 11:20 p.m. text, Chris doesn't say, "I hope you had a good night," because Chris knew Kessinger's night wasn't over yet. In Chris's 12:20 a.m. text, Chris now says, "Hope you had a great night, beautiful," because Chris knows Kessinger is now headed home, because Kessinger just left his house, and because Chris just finished eating her kitty. On Sunday, Kessinger told her friend Charlotte that Chris loves eating kitty. The text messages between Kessinger and Chris prove Kessinger went to Chris's house Friday night. So Kessinger actually saw Chris 3 times, and not twice, in the last 16 days of Chris's free life. So yes, Kessinger lied about how many times she went to Chris's house. But the anti-NKers aren't even the people to point this actual Kessinger lie out to you. I am, because I am the world's living, leading, breathing truth teller. And this is the only lie that Kessinger actually told in this entire case. Behind Criminal Minds also claims that Kessinger told Chris that she would give birth to his first son. behind Criminal Minds' source for this ridiculous statement is known liar and admitted murderer Chris Watts. Now, I know this alleged Kessinger statement came from Chris's prison interview and not the discovery, but how dumb does a person have to be to believe that you can decide for yourself what gender your baby will be? There is no possibility that Nichol Kessinger made this silly comment to Chris, and to use Chris Watts as a source is laughable.
Was struggling with her really bad, and not only that, he's got a third child on the way, and I know he was probably just like, I can't fucking afford a third kid. Wants it, but can't afford it, you know? And he always told me he, like, wanted a little boy.
It was Chris who told Kessinger that he always wanted a son, and he was having one until he had it killed. Behind Criminal Minds then claims that Kessinger's Google searches prove that Kessinger was completely enamored with Chris, because Kessinger Googled wedding dresses while Chris was in North Carolina on August 4th. In reality, Kessinger Googled wedding dresses because her friend Charlotte, who cop Kevin thinks is gay, was engaged and getting married.
Who's Charlotte?
Are you asking me who's Charlotte? Mm-hmm. Like one of my friends?
Mm-hmm.
She's like a really good friend of mine. Why?
Did you have some conversations with her regarding another boyfriend?
No.
That you might have met on eHarmony? Or did she meet somebody on eHarmony?
No, she's engaged.
Okay.
She's engaged.
So there's some text messages.
Is this the second lie that Kessinger told? Charlotte is not gay, and she was engaged to a guy. But once again, only the king of the case tells you the truth about possible lies, while the fake crime channels make up complete horse shit regarding the alleged lies that Kessinger told.
Never.
So Charlotte, that's who you were talking with?
Yes.
Did you one time tell me Charlotte's a lesbian?
No, she's engaged.
Okay. Were you talking about one of your friends that might have been a lesbian at some point?
That's not the case. I don't think so. I don't.
You never said that about any of your friends that I inquired about?
I don't think
okay.
so. I don't think so.
I think on the first day we talked with your dad there, I inquired about Charlotte.
Yeah, you asked me about Charlotte and eHarmony, and I went through all my texts, and I was like, what is he talking about? And I couldn't find it. So I was wondering if maybe somebody referenced both of those two, but not in together.
Okay.
Cop Kevin misheard what Kessinger said in their first interview. Kessinger said the word engaged twice. Kessinger said Charlotte is engaged. She's engaged. However, Cop Kevin incorrectly thought he heard Kessinger say Charlotte is gay and engaged to another girl. So no, Kessinger did not lie, and Cop Kevin was simply wrong.
No, she's engaged.
Okay.
She's engaged.
So there's some text messages.
Behind Criminal Minds also falsely claims that Kessinger would throw tantrums when Chris paid attention to his family, and not to her. And he claims Kessinger was irate when Chris went to North Carolina to see his family. This is totally beyond ridiculous. Chris went to North Carolina on July 31st. He returned on August 7th. The murders occurred on August 13th. And between July 29th and August 13th, Kessinger only saw Chris 3 times, for a total of 7 hours. Shannon was gone all weekend long, yet Kessinger didn't even bother to see Chris on Sunday. On Tuesday, Shannon kicked Chris out of bed and told him not to come home after work on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, Chris told Luke Epple that his truck GPS would show Chris's truck at some other location because he would be staying with a friend. The friend's house Chris was referring to was Nichol Kessinger. Without even asking her in advance, Chris went to Kessinger's house and expected her to let him stay there, but Kessinger said no. Does this sound like Kessinger was throwing tantrums? because Chris wasn't paying attention to her?
And if you want me to come with you, I'll go look at them. But you know.
You said earlier that he had never, or that the apartment wasn't for you and him. It was just for him and his children.
Oh yes.
It was. You had no intentions of moving in with him.
No, I have my own spot. I still have a lease there till July, and even then, like, he never asked me to move in with him,
Okay.
and I never tried to move in with him. I mean, I told him. I mean, I really try to take everything with this whole situation very slow. The only part that I screwed up on was the fact that he wasn't completely separated from her when him and I decided to spend time with each other. That is where I screwed up. But other than that, everything else, it was always like, you know, you build your life, I'm going to build my life, we will intertwine them, but I am not ready to, like, do this. And he respected that. And I even said that, and I don't know, that might be in the text, but said that too, where it's like, Chris, like, you need space. Like, you're just getting out of a divorce. Like, personally, I think jumping into a new relationship is a little quick. It's like, I was in a relationship earlier this year, and I think this is also a little quick. And I'm like, so why don't we take our time? And I'm like, if you guys end up doing a week on, a week off with your kids, I'm like, the week you have your kids, be with your children. And the week that you don't, I'm like, I don't even want to see you every day. I'm like, I think we should spend like a few days of that together. I'm like, because I like my space, and I think you need your space. I think you need your space to, like, develop your identity again. And
You seem to know a lot about people. Was there some impression he gave you that
the
was
whole
negative?
time, like the whole time we were together,
Yeah. Anything negative that sticks out?
I didn't think anything negative. I mean, like, I have preferences. Like, I thought he was like, I don't want to use the word clingy because it's fucked up. He was like he was a lot more into me than I was into him. And it didn't make me. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed his company though. I mean, enough so that I kept everything going despite the situation. And I mean, like, it didn't scare me or anything. It's just like, I don't move that fast.
Okay. Is that fair? Because you know he left in July and he comes back in August. How many times do you think you see him?
I saw him a few times. I saw him this past Saturday. I saw him the Wednesday before that. And he wanted to see me more. I was the one who wanted my space. I was like, nope, your kids are home. Go hang out with your kids. And even on Wednesday, I cut it short. Like, he came and hang out with me for a few hours, and then I was like, go chill with your kids.
Like, I think I made it clear that I wasn't, like, 100% sure this was, like, the man of my dreams and I was going to spend the rest of my life with him or anything.
Wednesday is the day that Shannon was going for the ultrasound, and you can tell that Kessinger doesn't know anything about it because she had no clue Shannon was even pregnant. The anti-Nkers just love to use Chris as a source for their fake stories, but when Chris said Kessinger didn't know Shannon was pregnant, now the anti-Nkers say Chris is lying. Listen closely, and you hear Chris say that they hadn't met yet.
What, did she know that Shanann was pregnant with a boy?
No.
Did she know Shanann was pregnant?
No.
And why is that? You just didn't tell her?
I didn't know. Like, because we hadn't met.
But Shanann put that on Facebook.
That's
like, how did she not see that?
I don't know. Maybe she did. She just wait. We'd tell her, or she put it out her head.
So in those 6 years, though, they had 2 children.
Yep.
And you said earlier you did not know she was pregnant until reading the newspaper.
Yep.
So that never came up in any conversation. There was no indications that that was going on.
None.
He never hinted to anything like
Nothing.
that. As far as you knew, he was just leaving her. He had 2 children, and that was the final take on that.
Yes. I know why he lied to me. He lied to me because if I'd have known that he had a child on the way, I'd have never wasted my time with him in the first place. Like.
And in Nicole Atkinson's police interview, she confirms that Chris got home late on Wednesday, August 8th, and he was late because he was at Kessinger's house, and Kessinger would not allow Chris to stay there.
So they flew in Tuesday night late, and I was over at their house Wednesday night before we left. I went over and watched the girls, played with them, painted their nails. that kind of thing. Hung out with them. My mom and dad went. But Chris was really weird when he came home that night. He did not say hi to me. He did not acknowledge me at all, which is not normal for him. He'll like give a hug or he'll acknowledge that you're there. He'll say, hey, how you doing, whatever, and then he'll go on in his merry way and do whatever. He did not talk to me at all that night.
That was Wednesday night?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been the...
And I mean, they were in a hurry or whatnot, but because he was running late, so I literally got there when he got there and we like bypassed, but he didn't say anything and he seemed really like uptight.
Clearly, Behind Criminal Minds took the truth and spun it to fit his own money-making video. A video that is being highly praised by all the other fake crime channels. It's simply unreal. Behind Criminal Minds then wonders why the police never asked any follow-up questions when Kessinger's statements changed. In reality, if someone tells you the same story without changes, it usually means the story is scripted. Anyone who is asked a question will give an answer, then, later on, or the next day, you will obviously have had time to think about the question longer, and you would be able to give a more detailed answer about the question you were first asked. And do you know who agrees with me on this? That's right, the FBI.
I mean, it's one of these things, too, is a lot of times what happens is after you have an interview like this, you might start thinking, if he asked me this question or I just thought of something, feel free to give a call. Because usually people will think of something after the fact. Spending less than an hour at the park, you might think, what, in July, I remember he said this, or I remember this happened, in early August. If any of that comes to your mind, just reach out to me, call me.
How would Kessinger saying that she went to Chris's house only once, then saying she actually went to Chris's house twice, mean that she is somehow involved in murder? When Kessinger said going to the Lazy Dog was one of the only times that they were out in public together, what she meant was that it was one of the only times that they were out together in public in the Denver area. They did go to a public park and a movie together before as well, but almost all of their other outings together occurred when they were outside of Denver. For example, when they were in Boulder, Colorado Springs, Bandimere Speedway, and at the Sand Dunes. Then Behind Criminal Minds says that easily the most damning thing that convinced him that Kessinger was hiding something truly monstrous with respect to her involvement with the murders was the fact that Kessinger asked Chris for proof that he went to Survey 319 Monday morning. First of all, Kessinger never, ever, said Chris went to Survey 319. She said Chris went to the field to check a release. Kessinger doesn't even know the number of the wells, and she's never been to Survey 319 before. All Kessinger asked Chris for was proof that Chris went to work that morning.
Information.
I remember he told me he had to go to the field and not to the office on Monday morning.
Okay. Did he specifically say where he needed to go on Monday morning?
No, I don't ask him for those sites. There's Anadarko's got thousands of sites. If he were to tell me, I wouldn't even
They're just random numbers and stuff, right?
Well, he said, I got to go to a site. I got to go check out a valve or something where they think that they had a release. Something like that.
Did he mention the town or anywhere?
No. He just told me that that's what he had to go do. He's like, he was like, I won't see you in the office in the morning.
You're looking through those texts, look for his ABC phone for that one conversation we had where he screenshotted me what he did on Monday. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you said that's his Anadarko phone.
Okay. And that should be the only recent. There's probably stuff if you guys are able to pull up from way back that we talked, but nothing.
The thing we talked about was him proving that he went to the oil field.
That he went to work.
As I've already proven earlier, Chris texts Kessinger after 3:45 p.m., saying Shannon and the kids were not home. Kessinger only called Chris back at 5:01 p.m. Chris did not answer Kessinger's first call, so Kessinger called Chris back again. Chris answered this time and told Kessinger that he would call her back.
Back here? Yeah.
There's a driveway from the townhomes that backs right up to our fence.
Now, would you think that's a female friend or a male friend?
Honestly, I'm not going to put anything by it right now.
All right. Well, we appreciate you letting us go through your house.
No problem. I'm
definitely not in there.
No. Hey, hold on one second. Call you back. Bye-bye.
After the 3 cops left Chris's house at 5:30 p.m., Chris called Kessinger back, but Kessinger did not answer. Kessinger and Chris then text each other on and off until Jim leaves Kessinger's apartment around 9:30 p.m. Monday night.
I'm a pretty boring person.
Well, it sounds like you just went to work that day and then you came home and you were there at 3:45.
Yeah, like give or take like 5 minutes.
Whatever.
But yeah, so 3:45. I meet Jim there. Yeah, I was
And
totally
so Jim is understand from an investigative point, he could be a person who could say, yeah, I was there at 3:45. He doesn't know Chris. He doesn't know anything. He could say with one phone call, yeah, she came in at 3:45. Done.
Totally.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't have to ask anything more than, hi, Chris, my name's Kevin. Or Jim. And I'm not saying you have to give it to you.
Just leave Jim alone.
If
Jim
at
does
some
not need to be wrapped
point,
up in this.
if at some point I needed Jim's info to, let's say we couldn't find your phone records, would you tell me
can
who
have
Jim
them.
was?
I will give them to you.
Would you tell me who Jim was if I couldn't
If you
get
had
him?
to.
Okay.
I don't really want to
Great.
involve him in this. That's not
Perfect.
fair to him. That's not, no, if I do not have to do that.
That's fine.
Yeah, so anyways, Chris was like, call me.
And this is the 3:45 text.
Yeah, he sent me like a few. I think there was 3 of them, and I don't remember what the other one said, but something about like, yeah, my family's gone, or I don't remember verbatim, but call me when you can, or call me when you have a chance, something to that effect. And so I was like, all right. And then I remember we were like we were texting, but I was like hanging out with my company, so it wasn't like a nonstop text. It was just kind of like I would check my phone every once in a while, and we would communicate with each other. And he was just saying like they weren't there, and that her friend Nikki was there, and that her friend Nikki had called the cops. And I'm like, why would this girl call the cops? And like, I honestly do not remember the order of operations on all of this, but I'm pretty sure the majority of our conversation that night until my friend Jim left the house, which was probably pretty late, I don't even know what time, like 9 or 10, was all via text. So you should have this via text. Like,
Okay.
I don't think we started talking again on the phone until like after my company left.
Chris then called Kessinger at 9:48 p.m., and this is the first time that Chris explained to Kessinger in detail that Shannon and the kids were actually missing. Kessinger originally believed what Chris told her in text messages, and what Chris originally told Kessinger was that Shannon went to a friend's with the kids after Chris and Shannon had a heated discussion that morning. Later on, during a second 11:09 p.m. phone conversation, Kessinger found it odd that Chris wasn't acting worried enough about Shannon and the kids being missing. It was during this 11:09 p.m. conversation that Kessinger asked Chris for proof that he went to a job site that morning. On Friday or Saturday, Chris would have told Kessinger that he was not working Monday because Shannon asked Chris to take Monday off work to take the kids to school with her. Then, on Sunday, Chris told Kessinger he was going to a job site first thing in the morning. Kessinger did not see Chris Monday at the office, because Chris never went to the office. After midnight, Kessinger Googled search Shannon and called Chris back several times. Again, Chris would have told Kessinger on Friday or Saturday that he was not working Monday because Shannon asked him to take the day off work, and now Chris was saying that he went to the field Monday morning. So Kessinger caught Chris in a possible lie, and now his family is missing, and now he's not acting concerned enough about it, and now Kessinger is wondering why Chris isn't acting more concerned about his missing family. So Kessinger asked Chris for proof that he did in fact go to a job site that morning. All of this was proven to have occurred, and all of this was a completely logical thing for Kessinger to do. So how in the fuck would Kessinger asking Chris late Monday night for proof that he in fact went to a job site Monday morning, convinced behind Criminal Minds that Kessinger was hiding something monstrous about her involvement in the murders? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in the Chris Watts case. If Kessinger were involved, she wouldn't be asking Chris anything, because she would already know. And if Kessinger was involved, why would Kessinger ask Chris to send her proof that he was at the location where he and Kessinger allegedly pre-planned to take the dead bodies to? It makes no sense. The fact that Kessinger asked Chris to prove that he went to a job site actually proves to any rational thinking person that Kessinger was not involved at all, because if she was involved, she would not require proof. Behind Criminal Minds then bizarrely said that he noticed Kessinger never asked Chris to prove that he went to Survey 1029 or Survey 1129. Why would Kessinger ask Chris to prove something that she knows nothing about? This doesn't even make any sense. Chris told Kessinger he was going to a job site that morning, and Chris never told her he was going to, or went to, Survey 1029 or 1129. So why would she ask Chris about going to some place that she knows nothing about? Behind Criminal Minds then asked why the police didn't investigate Kessinger's possible involvement. Well, they obviously did.
I have 153 pages of text messages.
And despite his claim about doing an extensive forensic evaluation of the discovery, he claimed in a previous Kessinger video that the police only found out about Kessinger on Wednesday, August 15th, just hours before Chris took the polygraph test.
Well, we did know, we found out about Nikki right before the polygraph.
I figured that out after with meeting with John and everybody that she had met with somebody from the CBI, like on the 14th.
This is what convinced me that Behind Criminal Minds was either deliberately lying for views and money, or he didn't even look at the discovery much at all. The police records in the discovery that Behind Criminal Minds claims he did a forensic evaluation of proves beyond any doubt that the police knew about Kessinger before 11 p.m. Tuesday night. This is so because the police record shows Kessinger's home address. Chris had just left the cop shop after being interviewed by Coder, and he never told Coder about Kessinger on Tuesday, yet the police already have Kessinger's address. More amazingly, the police actually knew about Kessinger even before 11 p.m. Chris gave the police his phone to search at 8:25 p.m. Tuesday night.
Really dive in.
Okay.
And are you okay with that? Okay. I'm gonna hand this off to somebody. Okay. All right. I'll be right back.
However, other police records prove that the police knew about Kessinger even before Chris gave Coder his phone to search at 8:25 p.m. This police record proves that the police actually knew about Kessinger at 2 p.m. on Tuesday. And the reason the police knew about Kessinger at 2 p.m. is because someone contacted the police around 2 p.m. on Tuesday. Hero Nichol Kessinger went to the police faster than Skinny Toothpick Amber Fry did in the Scott Peterson case. You can clearly see that these police records were produced on Tuesday during the dog search and during the neighborhood canvass. The police record clearly states the time of 2 p.m., and it clearly says GF, Nichol Kessinger, and the GF stands for girlfriend. And the geosciences is the field Kessinger works in.
Look like you're tired again.
I lost my job yesterday, so that's where that comes from.
You lost your job with the geosciences place as well?
Do it all too soon and then have to do it all over again.
Tell Tell me the name of the geosciences company. I forget.
And Chris's lawyer, John Walsh, told Chris that Kessinger met with the cops on August 14th, which was Tuesday.
Well, we found out about Nikki right before the polygraph.
I figured that out after with meeting with John and everybody that she had met with somebody from the CBI, like on the 14th.
Kirby Lewis works for the CBI, and he is Tammy Lee's boss. Kirby Lewis's name is written on the page. The yellow page is Frederick Police Department Officer Egan's. There is a 303 telephone number written on the page. Kessinger worked for Tasman Geosciences, and Tasman had a 303 telephone number. So it appears Kessinger contacted the CBI, or someone from Tasman contacted the CBI about Kessinger at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, August 14th.
Turning the tape on Tuesday, which would have been the 14th of August, you had read some newspaper articles on the 13th and the 14th that regarded this case. You had also had a conversation with Chris at some point during the day on Monday. And on Tuesday, because of what you found, specifically what you said was, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but you found out that his wife was pregnant.
Yes.
And you did not know that prior. And you found that out via the newspaper articles, and that caused you concern.
Well, I just realized that he was lying to me, and I was like, well, if you can lie to me about this, what else are you lying to me about? And it made me realize that maybe his wife was in danger at that point, and it was day 2, too, and she still wasn't home.
What did that cause you to do with your phone, though?
Oh, what? When I deleted those? I was just kind of grossed out by him, to be honest with you. I was just like, I don't know what's going on right now, but you just lied to me, and I don't want to see this come over my phone anymore. So I removed it.
So you already said, but you removed text messages?
I deleted all of his stuff because he lied to me. I mean, that's what it was. It was the hurt that made me delete it, and then it was the lie that made me start questioning everything else he'd been telling me for the last few days.
And that's when you decided to come forward?
Yes.
Okay.
But it gets better, because the police knew about Kessinger even earlier than 2 p.m. on Tuesday, because they actually knew about her 16 hours earlier at 9:48 p.m. Monday night. The police obviously do police work, and the police knew Chris was a prime suspect early on.
I can tell you personally, I knew something was really wrong when I went out there, and so did Officer Coonrod, which is why he called me. And it's just a matter of you have to do certain things and check off certain things before you can do anything.
Yes, sir.
This started out as a missing persons case. At what point did Chris Watts become a suspect?
Very, very early on. Many of the things that he was saying just weren't quite adding up. The Frederick Police Department, the CBI, the FBI did an amazing job from the very outset to begin to focus on him, and rightly so.
This is why Val Hover sent 3 cops back to search Chris's house for a second time on Monday at 4:30 p.m. Kessinger and Chris were phone chatting back and forth from 9:48 p.m. Monday night to 2:07 a.m. Tuesday morning, and the police listened in on their wireless phone calls. The police heard Kessinger grilling Chris about where his missing family was, just like Hero Kessinger told the police she did. So the police knew about Kessinger by 9:48 p.m. Monday night, and the police knew all along that Kessinger was not involved in Shannon's disappearance. The police knew Chris was awake and on the phone with Kessinger at 1:58 a.m., so they called Chris at 1:58 a.m., and after 4 minutes of phone tag, they asked Chris at 2:04 a.m. if he knew of any other names that the police could call to try and help find Chris's family. When Chris said no, the police knew he was lying, because the police knew Chris was on the phone with Kessinger and Chris never told them about Kessinger before.
So since the other officers have talked to you, has anything else come to mind that you can think of to help us try to figure out what's going on, where she is?
Nothing's come across. Just a bunch of text messages from a lot of friends just reaching out to me, just seeing like if they could help or whatnot, but nothing new.
Okay. Can't think of any other names or anything that come to mind that we could call?
No new names right now.
When Chris gave Coder his phone to search on Tuesday at 8:25 p.m., the police didn't have time to search it at all, and they didn't even find Chris's secret calculator app until days later. Coder left Chris in the interview room a second time, then came back in at 9:40 p.m., then at 9:50 p.m., Coder asked Chris, "What's her name?" How did Coder already know about a girlfriend when they didn't even have time to search Chris's phone yet?
I gotta ask, what's her name? I don't have another one. You sure? I'm sure. Okay. Would you tell me if you did? Yes. Okay. So, again, highly trained investigator over here, right? I see pictures of you from a few years ago, and I see you standing before me now. Okay? You've gotten pretty fit. Okay? You can imagine when guys start cheating or want to cheat, that's what happens. Yes. So tell me about it. I did not cheat on my wife. Okay.
Coder knew, because, again, the police listened in on Chris and Kessinger's wireless phone calls Monday night and Tuesday morning. On Wednesday, before Chris confessed, but after Chris told Coder about the affair with Kessinger, Coder told Chris that he knew Kessinger had nothing to do with the murders, and Coder said that he was leaving her out of this. How did Coder know Kessinger had nothing to do with the murders, when Tammy Lee said they only found out about Kessinger a few hours earlier and just before Chris took the polygraph test?
Can we do this? I know you want to take care of her it's because you're the type of guy that takes care of women. It is. You took care of your wife, you took care of your daughters, you were very good at taking care of her, and you want to take care of her. So can we make a deal? I don't think this girl did anything to hurt anybody, but I can't walk out of here wondering. So can we leave her out of it? Okay. Get back to your wife and your daughters. Okay. Where are they?
Once again, the police knew Kessinger wasn't involved at all, because the police had listened in on Chris and Kessinger's 9:48 p.m. to 2:07 a.m. wireless phone calls, and Kessinger was grilling Chris about his missing family, just like Kessinger said she did. Have a think about it, party people. If Kessinger was involved in the murders, why would Kessinger be grilling Chris about where his family was? Obviously, if Kessinger was involved, she would already know where Chris's family was. Now, despite Kessinger's phone records and the discovery being crystal clear, fake crime channel Annie Elise X10 to life falsely claims that Kessinger was listening in on Chris's phone call to Cop Goodman at 2 a.m. Pirate Annie is known for stealing information from other channels, and for not giving credit to the channel she stole it from. So where did Annie steal this dumb idea that Kessinger was listening in on the phone call? That's right, she stole it from another fake crime channel. And she did not give the channel credit. And where did this other fake crime channel get her information from? Yup, from yet another channel. It appears Unmasked True Crime used True Psych Ward's fairly accurate timeline chart, but instead of using it properly, Unmasked decided to take True Psych Ward's accurate information and make it fake news for views. Unmasked claims Chris called Goodman on his work phone, then called Kessinger on his personal phone at 2:06 a.m., so Kessinger could hear the conversation Goodman and Chris were having. But this is total horse shit.
This seems like a good time to insert some information that we found back in April. Our group was doing kind of an in-depth review of NK's phone logs, and we noticed that there's some calls that night on Monday through the 13th, where they go into the morning of the 14th, that overlap with Officer Goodman's calls. So on Monday night, actually it's now Tuesday, August 14th, early in the morning, Nichol and Chris have been talking back and forth. Officer Goodman is assigned to call and get more information from Chris, like their height and weight, any scars or anything like that about Shanann and the girls. So at 1:58 a.m., Officer Goodman is trying to call Chris Watts on his cell phone, on his personal cell. Because you remember, Chris has his personal cell and he has his work cell. So he tries to call him, and you can hear it on the video that's in Discovery when he's trying to call. It sounds like someone's answering, but then it's silent, and then it just hangs up. And it does this repeatedly. So right around 2:05 a.m., Officer Goodman gets a return call from Chris from his work cell. And Chris tells Officer Goodman that he's having problems with his personal cell, even though he's been on it talking to Nichol throughout the entire night with no problem seemingly. And so he's calling him from his work cell. So Officer Goodman proceeds to ask him the questions about their height and weight and the identifying marks. And they have an approximately 4 to 5 minute conversation. And if you look at the cell phone bills, Chris makes a call to NK and she does not answer it, but then she calls him back on his personal cell at 2:07 a.m. and they proceed to talk for 11 minutes. And again, we're all going to have different opinions on this, and it's okay if we disagree with us that this is anything significant, but we do think it's interesting that it appears that while he's on the phone talking to the officer on his work cell, she's sitting there obviously quiet, if you hear the call, on his personal cell listening to him ask questions about his missing family.
In reality, Goodman's video is 7 minutes long. The Discovery shows Goodman started calling Chris at 1:58 a.m. Chris was on his personal phone with Kessinger from 1:51 a.m. until 1:58 a.m. Chris saw that the cop was trying to call him at 1:58 a.m., so Chris hung up with Kessinger at 1:58 a.m.
A long gap until 1:50, so another 45 or 35 minutes, and then there's a 7-minute phone call. That phone call lasts till 1:58 a.m.
Goodman's video is 7 minutes long. Goodman starts calling Chris at 1:58 a.m. Chris calls Goodman back 4 minutes into Goodman's 7-minute long video. So Goodman and Chris played phone tag for 4 minutes before they started talking to each other at 2:02 a.m. Goodman's video proves that Goodman and Chris spoke to each other on the phone for 3 minutes. Since Goodman started calling Chris at 1:58 a.m., and since Goodman's video is 7 minutes long, it proves that Goodman and Chris ended their phone call at 2:05 a.m. Kessinger's phone bill proves that Chris then called Kessinger back at 2:06 a.m., but she didn't answer. 2:06 a.m. is 1 minute after Chris got off the phone with Goodman at 2:05 a.m. Kessinger then called Chris back at 2:07 a.m., and they spoke for 11 minutes and until 2:18 a.m. So no, Kessinger was not listening in on Chris's call to Goodman, as the fake crime channels falsely said and spread around YouTube. None of the fake crime channels fact-check anything. What's the obsession runs out the fake 5:18 a.m. video, with the woman walking out of the garage. Kelly's cool, but she still hasn't figured out that there are 2 5:18 a.m. videos, one real, one fake. Since there are 2 5:18 a.m. videos, just by chance, WTO had a 50% chance of using the real one, and she still got it wrong. ATS runs out the fake kid shadow under the truck from the fake 5:18 a.m. video. ATS claims Chris was going to blow up the tanks at Survey 319. If blowing up the tanks was the plan, then why didn't they do it? Chris arrived at 319 at 6:53 a.m., and they all left at 9:30 a.m., yet they forgot to do it. What a dumb theory this is. Part of this dumb theory is Shannon was going to drive to 319 and confront Chris, despite Shannon not even knowing where 319 was. Despite all the evidence that I've shown for 5 years against NA, evidence that rookie ATS missed, ATS claims it's reaching to accuse NA. Obviously, ATS should stick to something she might be good at, like knitting maybe. Zawoki is new to the case, and he says he hates Chris Watts, yet he's cashing in big time every day, so how bad could he hate Chris? If you go to any of these channels' live streams and ask real questions, you are timed out or blocked from the channel. This is how these fake crime channels have managed to get away with lying to their mindless members for 5 years. I can debunk every anti-NKer with only 2 words. Prove it. Prove anything you say with evidence. They can't, because there is no evidence against Kessinger. DA Rourke admits that Kessinger came forward on her own initiative, and she did, because this is what true capeless heroes do.
She originally came forward and spoke to investigators on her own volition?
But since the police reports proved that they knew about Kessinger on Tuesday, it proves the cops did not find out about Kessinger from an Anadarko employee, who forwarded to the police emails between Chris and Kessinger. So behind Criminal Mind's story, that the police only found out about Kessinger when Tony Husky forwarded the police emails just before Chris took the polygraph test, is complete horse shit. And since Kessinger came forward on her own, why haven't we heard the 3 phone calls that Kessinger made to the cop shop? However, despite being the only true hero in the case, for coming forward, Coder and Tammy were still going to frame Kessinger, because Coder and Tammy made their fake 5:18 a.m. video at 5:18 a.m. on Wednesday, August 15th. And Coder and Tammy added a fake scene of a woman walking out of Chris's garage, while Chris was already sitting in his truck on the street. And Coder and Tammy were going to say at trial that this actress walking out of Chris's garage at 5:18 a.m. was Nichol Kessinger. The evidence proves that the police knew about Kessinger on Tuesday, before Coder and Tammy made their fake 5:18 a.m. video. The evidence proves that despite knowing about Kessinger since Tuesday, the police never contacted Kessinger at all, as in ever. DA Rourke admits it was Kessinger who contacted the police first. There is also no evidence that Chris even failed the polygraph test, but after allegedly failing it, Coder asked Chris if you guys were keeping the kids warm, and if you guys were taking care of the kids at the end. The you guys Coder was fraudulently referring to was Chris and Kessinger.
Did you guys make sure that they were warm when they left the house? Make sure they were warm? They're always warm. They always have, when they're in their beds, they're always warm. Okay. Were you guys taking care of them at the very end? I wouldn't. They're always taken care of. They never miss a meal.
When Kessinger met with cop Kevin on Thursday, he points to the camera that is recording her interview, and he said, "The police need this interview video, because the police didn't know yesterday what they now know today."
Sorry that you're talking again today. I really am. I don't want to put you through any more trauma than you've already been through. There is reasons for everything that we're doing today and what occurred. And I'm sorry. I genuinely am sorry. These are not things that we like to do twice. It's the same thing with other types of victims from other crimes. We want to do it once and we want to be done. Unfortunately, we didn't know yesterday what we know today, and that's why we're here, because we need this video. And I am sorry.
Yesterday was Wednesday, and on Wednesday, the police made their fake 5:18 a.m. video that was going to be used to frame Kessinger. And this is why Cop Kevin apologized to Hero Kessinger. As you heard Cop Kevin say, there were reasons for everything they were doing during the interview. As Cop Kevin said, one of the reasons was because the police now wanted to show that Kessinger was nowhere near Chris that day. And the police needed to show this, because the police had manufactured and compiled all of this fake evidence against Kessinger to frame her.
There is reasons for everything that we're doing today and what stuff, and we want to show that you were never near him that day. Period.
The police doctored the date on the "oh my God, they would freak out" text to make it appear that it was sent on Monday at 2:44 p.m. when, in reality, Chris is on Coonrod's camera at 2:44 p.m. and he doesn't send a text during the entire 2:44 p.m. minute. Kessinger has no idea why the texts are not in order, and the reason is because the police tampered with her text messages.
I just wish they were more complete, and I don't understand why they're coming in bits and pieces. Like, what's causing that?
So the 10th. Oh, you went to the Rockies game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see him that day.
So this is the final one.
This is the one. I don't know if this is in order. I'm not sure exactly what this is referring to. I think this one at the bottom, this "oh my God, that's absolutely ridiculous, they would freak out." That, do you remember when I told you, like, I was always trying to, like, incorporate his kids and stuff? I mean, even if it wasn't, like, directly, like, me and him, but just, like, I was always thinking of cute stuff when I'd see stuff, and I was like, oh my God, little girls would like that. I would show him, and I found this box of Lucky Charms that was unicorn Lucky Charms.
Okay.
And I thought they were really cute, and I texted it to him, and I was like, do your little girls know about these? Because they're awesome. And I was like, little stuff like that.
So
and I don't think that that's the 13th, because I don't think I talked to him that day. What day was the 13th? I can't remember.
Monday.
Was it Monday?
I think. I gotta look, because I can't.
I think it will. No, well then maybe these are in order. Monday was the day I think that I sent that text.
Yes, that's Monday morning at 2:44 p.m. So that's an afternoon, Monday. Does that sound right?
I was at work when I texted it to
Okay.
him.
So that fits.
Okay, so then it is in order. So it is in order.
So
And this
is
makes
the
sense.
12th.
Because that's Sunday, right?
That's Sunday.
Okay, so they're in order. They're just missing a whole
So
bunch.
he's basically saying he's still at that
Barbecue.
and that fits. Okay, perfect.
Okay. So then this one is in the right place.
Yep.
I was thinking 8/13 was Tuesday, and I'm like, I don't think him and I had a very pleasant conversation on Tuesday.
The police also lied when they say in the discovery that Kessinger Google searched Shannon's disappearance for 4 hours straight, starting at 12:08 p.m. on Tuesday. In reality, Kessinger began her Google searches at 12:08 p.m., but Kessinger gets off work at 3 p.m. every day, and if Kessinger Googled searched Shannon news articles for 4 hours straight, starting at 12:08 p.m., as the police falsely claim, then Kessinger would have left work late, and left at 4:08 p.m., because she gets off work at 3 p.m. every day.
And I don't remember everything, but it wasn't, I didn't even make it through the entire workday. Like, I was feeling really, really sick, like, in general. And then I decided on my lunch break to get on the internet and look at what was going on with all the reports. And I saw a report that was like, this woman who's 15 weeks pregnant and her 2 daughters are missing. And I was like, whoa, what? And I was just like so floored, and I read a couple other articles just to make sure that, you know, all the newspapers are, and like just double check, like, am I really reading this right? And I'm like, okay. And he had told me previously, like, she says she's pregnant with another man's kid, but he'd said, like, he could kind of tell in North Carolina, but that girl is like obviously pregnant. I mean, in her photos. I mean, 15 weeks, that's like 4 months. That's pretty far along. And so it's like, how would you not know if she's showing? Like, you totally know she's showing. And so Oh my God, I got so sick. I was just like, I need to go. I just like packed my stuff and I left work and I went home.
So why, after contacting the police faster than skinny sellout Amber Fry did, were the police still trying to make Hero Kessinger appear guilty? Why are the police falsely claiming the giggle phone messages on Chris's phone are from Kessinger when they are clearly from Nichol Atkinson? Why did the police insert the goofy giggle laugh into the audio of Kessinger's meeting with the FBI? You can clearly hear two different laughs, one after the other. The second laugh is Kessinger's real laugh. The first laugh is the goofy fake giggle that the police inserted into the audio after the meeting happened.
Told me that he was currently in the process of a separation from his wife. And so, are there mosquitoes? That he's in.
Why did DA Rourke falsely say Kessinger hampered the investigation when it's not true? Because the truth is that Kessinger in fact contacted the police first. Kessinger explained why she deleted all of her text messages, and there wasn't even a crime at the time she deleted it, as Shannon and the kids were only missing at the time. The police also retrieved all of the text messages from Chris's phone, because he didn't delete anything. So why did Rourke lie in November by saying Kessinger hampered the investigation when he knew in August that Chris never deleted anything?
Still made to delete everything, and I didn't delete everything. Okay. I'm not sure why I didn't delete everything, but probably helped you guys out a little bit. But
she told you to delete everything?
Delete all conversations.
Did she tell you why?
That deleted.
And in addition to Kessinger giving the police access to her phones, she also contacted Verizon to try and get them to retrieve all of her deleted information for the police.
There's also like a computer record of me talking to the Verizon wireless people, asking them if they can restore my text and what they had to say about it, just so that you guys know that I did the due diligence to attempt to do that.
Kessinger voluntarily gave the police her phones so they could track her GPS locations because she wasn't involved and she had nothing to hide.
We talked about your GPS locating, like knowing where your phone is at certain times.
I mean, you guys can have all that.
Kessinger told the FBI that she contacted the police and came forward for Shannon, for Shannon's kids, and for Shannon's unborn child.
Yesterday rolled around and she's still not around, and that started to seem really concerning for me, and that was when I decided that it's probably a good idea to just come talk to you guys. I don't really think he would harm them. I don't. I mean, and I think that's also a reason that it took me 2 days to come to you guys, because baby, that woman, like that whole situation, like that is, I'm here because of those three and her unborn, but I'm here for those three, but I'm also here because I am in a good position. I really want to help you guys.
And when Kessinger met the FBI in the park, Hero Kessinger offered to covertly record phone conversations with Chris, like Skinny Amber Fry did with Scott Peterson, and the FBI said no thanks.
Someplace, and he didn't go there, that could be significant. So even though if you do have contact with him and you think it's just a normal conversation, there could be something that's significant about that.
Do you want me?
Not yet.
No guilty person would offer to covertly record phone calls because Chris would not know he was being recorded. And if Kessinger were involved in the murders and Chris started talking about her involvement during the secretly recorded phone call, then Kessinger was going to prison for life because tape-recorded conversations are admissible in court. But Kessinger offered to covertly record Chris for the FBI because she knew she wasn't involved. So why did Rourke bizarrely praise and thank suspect Nichol Atkinson, who lied non-stop and who interfered with the investigation?
The one that's right behind you?
Then maybe Chris was caught in the act because Nichol acted as quickly as she did?
I think she was absolutely instrumental. The fact that she made phone calls to the Frederick Police Department within several hours of this act and this disappearance, I think only benefited law enforcement. Being able to have law enforcement respond to that house before the defendant came back and was able to do any other cleanup or getting rid of evidence, I think was crucial to this investigation. And so she's obviously here, and I want to extend our thanks to you for that very timely response, and thank you for all you've done.
But not praise or thank hero Nichol Kessinger.
The girlfriend you referenced in court, can you give us a better idea of her role in the investigation, how forthcoming she was, and how she helped?
She originally came forward and spoke to investigators on her own volition. Prior to the time, unfortunately, that she came in and spoke with investigators, she had deleted all of the information off of her phone that had any connection between her and Chris Watts. That hampered the investigation. That hampered our ability to get that electronic digital connection between the two. She was interviewed on multiple occasions. I believe that for the most part she was forthcoming in the course of those investigations. We don't have any reason to believe that she had any prior knowledge or involvement in the death of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I think that's the best way I can answer that.
Wow! Why? How? I don't even understand how you could bring yourself to do that.
Nichol Kessinger had a great paying dream job, a 401k, her own vehicle, 2 cell phones, and an apartment full of sexy paid-off furniture.
And I was telling him, my house, I have a really beautiful house. It's set up, really nice. But everything I have is, from Craigslist or Goodwill. I have pieced it together, and it's all, or, marked down stuff. And I have pieced it together in a way, it's pretty, huh? It's a pretty house, but you would never guess that, everything I got is, super discount. And one day we were sitting on my couch, and we were just bullshitting about some stuff, and I was telling him oh yeah, I got this marked down in American Furniture because the corner was dented, and I got this one off a guy on Craigslist.
So there is zero chance Kessinger wanted what Shanann had, because Shanann didn't have anything. Shanann was in debt, broke, going on her 3rd kid, and about to be homeless, because Shanann and Chris were declaring bankruptcy for the 2nd time in 3 years. Despite Shanann being gone for over a month, Kessinger was only at Chris's house 3 brief times, although Kessinger claimed she was only there twice. And despite Chris having Shannon's $80,000 Lexus, Kessinger was only in the Lexus once, because they drove Kessinger's truck when they went out.
And when he came to your house, did he pick you up at your house?
I don't really ride in this car. I've been in that white car they have once, but other than that, we take my truck everywhere. But I've never been in it.
And then I think I asked you this, but the white vehicle. I know he drove that. But were you ever in a white vehicle? One time? Okay. Can you just tell me about that?
I'm trying to figure out where we went. I think it was something close. We take my truck everywhere.
So it's beyond laughable for anti-NKers to say Kessinger wanted what Shanann had. It's even more funny to hear anti-NKers say that what Kessinger really wanted was Chris, when Kessinger was dating other guys and only spent 7 tiny hours with Chris in the last 16 days of his free life. Kessinger gets no points for banging a married man. However, Kessinger only lied once in this case, and I'm the only person to tell you what the lie by omission was. You see, Kessinger didn't actually tell a lie. She just never told the police about being at Chris's house Friday night. But hero Nichol Kessinger did the right thing when she quickly went to the police, and I salute this true American hero for her honesty and bravery in coming forward when she did, despite knowing her life would become a circus, thanks to a pile of crazy Karens and a couple of Kevins on YouTube.
My name is about to be slandered for probably a while. I don't know how long that's going to take to heal, but I would not be surprised if it's going to be hard to go out in public sometimes for a couple of years. And that really hurts me. I'm just like, this is a horrible, horrible thing. Like, how dare you, you know? And people aren't going to understand that. You know, they're going to say, oh, you know, you're the woman that had an affair with this man who took out his whole family.
So, like it or not, everything Kessinger said was verified and checked out, and all anti-Ancaire allegations against Kessinger are 100% false.
There are quite a few people who would tell us, and who do tell us, you need to look into Nikki Kessinger, all the way from the extreme end of things being Nikki's the one who ordered the hit.
She was there. I'm in the basement.
She was there.
Yeah.
You know, so the extreme is she's the one who told Chris to do it. She's the real problem. All the way, that's the extreme side, and then all the way to, well, there were these texts where she was infatuated, she was in love, she was saying how good Chris was in the sack, and maybe we should look at her more.
When Kessinger met the FBI in the park, FBI Mark told Kessinger that everyone knew Kessinger cared. How would FBI Mark already know that the police knew Kessinger cared, when Mark had only met Kessinger less than an hour ago? FBI Mark knew because, again, the police listened in on Kessinger and Chris's phone calls Monday night and Tuesday morning, and Kessinger was grilling Chris about where his family was, and told Chris that she was afraid for Shannon and the kids, just like Hero Kessinger told the police she did.
You're in a unique position.
I know, that's right. The babies, man, the babies, that woman, like that whole situation, like that is, I'm here because of those three and her unborn. But I'm here for those three. But I'm also here because I am in a good position and I really want to help you guys.
Well, we appreciate that. I think it's obvious. I mean, we can sense, you know, anybody can sense sitting here how that you do care.
Again, everything Hero Kessinger said checked out, and all anti-Ancaire allegations against an obviously caring Nichol Kessinger are bullshit. Kessinger was only going by memory when she was telling the police her story, because she did not have her phone text times, as she deleted her messages. Yet Kessinger got almost everything correct. Kessinger was only wrong about getting home from work at 3:45 p.m. on Monday, because she clearly got home later. Kessinger called Jim at 3:32 p.m., and Kessinger was only in Brighton when she made the call. This proves Kessinger drove home on Highway 85 and 120 Avenue. However, there is no way Kessinger made it to her apartment on Claude Court from Brighton in 13 minutes. It's simply not possible because she still had 13 miles to travel and over 14 traffic lights to travel through. Kessinger still had to travel over 6 miles on 120, and the speed limit on 120 is only 45 miles per hour. Kessinger said that as soon as she got home, she received a text from Chris.
So Jim came over, and I got home. He was there. He had like just walked in the door, and I remember like briefly after he got there, I checked my texts. I mean, briefly after I met up with Jim, I like glanced at my texts, and Chris said something about like, my family's not home. And then he said, call me when you can. And
Kessinger said that after she got home, she hung out with Jim for 15 to 20 minutes. Then she called Chris, but he didn't answer.
So you make a phone call to him and you guys have a conversation.
I did. I stepped outside.
This is 3:45.
Ish. I mean, well, like, I think I actually interacted with Jim for like probably a good 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, I remember hanging out with Jim for a while, and then I stepped outside, and I made a call, like, out on my back patio, and I called him, and he didn't answer the phone.
Kessinger's 2 calls to Chris were made at 5:01 p.m. and 5:02 p.m. Chris didn't answer Kessinger's first call.
Friend. Honestly, I'm not going to put anything by it right now.
Chris never told Kessinger the cops are here when he answered Kessinger's second call.
Hey, hold on one second. Call you back.
Kessinger told the police that Chris told her that the cops are here. Since Chris never told Kessinger that the cops were here when he answered her second call, it means Chris told Kessinger that the cops were here in his text message to her.
I have to go. The cops are here, and I don't remember if he said that on the phone or over text.
That's
I don't
okay.
even. I'm so tired.
That's fine. You don't
But
need
either
the
way,
different-
like
it's
the
just
cops,
the context.
Yeah, I mean, you guys will figure it out. The cops are here, and I'm just like.
Kessinger clearly has her time of arrival at home wrong. Kessinger did not get home around 3:45 p.m. because Kessinger got home between 4:10 and 4:37 p.m. Kessinger said Chris sent 3 text messages, and Chris texted Kessinger between 4:10 and 4:37 p.m.
Yeah, he sent me like a few. I think there was 3 of them.
Coonrod only returned to Chris's house at 4:10 p.m., while James arrived at 4:19 p.m. James captured Chris sending messages between 4:33 and 4:37 p.m. Chris sent Kelly Burke a text at 4:22 and 4:26 p.m. Kessinger said that Chris told her that the cops are here. However, Chris didn't tell Kessinger the cops are here on the phone. Since Coonrod only returned at 4:10 p.m., it means Chris sent Kessinger a text message after 4:10 p.m. saying the cops are here. It's now 4:33 p.m., and Officer Bakes has just arrived. Nicole Atkinson is still parked behind the gray SUV down the street. Here's Chris texting. Atkinson never did get to secretly talk to Chris, as she planned, when she returned to Chris's house at 4:25 p.m. Atkinson pulls out from her hidey hole at 4:33 p.m. and begins to drive off. How did all the fake crime channels miss this, right? Hey, Nicole, where you going? Atkinson doesn't even stop to ask the cops if they have any news about her friend Shannon, because Atkinson already knows that the police don't have any new news. Chris is seen on his phone again at 4:37 p.m., and this is when Chris texts Kessinger and told her that the cops are here.
So Chris, it's your house. You can go inside with us if you'd like.
Kessinger told cop Kevin that Chris had not mentioned anything about Shannon and the kids before Kessinger got home.
Yes, and then he said, "Call me when you can." And I was
There was
like,
no other communication between you and him that morning, on Monday morning?
Well,
at all?
there was, but it was like random, like.
But nothing about this event?
No.
About, like, my wife's missing, or
No.
anything?
Nothing.
Okay.
Kessinger told cop Kevin that Chris had not mentioned anything about Shannon and the kids before Kessinger got home. So it appears that Chris texted Kessinger at 4:37 p.m. Kessinger was just getting in her apartment. Then she hung out with Jim for 15 or 20 minutes after seeing Chris's text, and before stepping out onto her patio to call Chris at 5:01 p.m. Since Kessinger admits that she hung out with Jim for 15 to 20 minutes before calling Chris at 5:01 p.m., it proves Chris texted Kessinger around 4:37 p.m., and Chris was seen on both James and Coonrod's chest camera texting Kessinger at 4:37 p.m. In any event, Kessinger has made the fake crime channels a lot of money, and they should be thanking Kessinger for all the money she's made them. Instead, the fake crime channels will continue to milk Kessinger for years to come, because they have no other watchable content. Most of these fake crime channels, and most of the completely bizarre theories in this case, all have one thing in common. The batshit crazy theories are all made up by, and most of the fake crime channels are run by, women. So Tammy Lee was right.
Chicks are crazy. Can I talk?
And the reason D.A. Rourke never released Kessinger's texts from Text Tuesday is because Kessinger was still grilling Chris about where his family was, which proves Kessinger wasn't involved at all.
Stuff. And then, and I kept asking him too, like, what did you do, Chris? What did you do? And he was like, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, where's your family? And like, I asked him that. I don't know if I started doing that on Tuesday or if I started doing that on Monday, but I think it was Tuesday, because I don't really think I was that alarmed on Monday. And then, so that was supposed to be like our final sign-off text. And then Jim got there at my house, and I was hanging out with Jim. But I was still, like, in my head, just kind of, like, stressed out. And I remember I, like, walked out of the room, went in my bedroom, and texted Chris one more time. And I told him, I was like, if you did something bad, I was like, you're going to ruin your life. And I was like, and if you did something bad, I was like, you're going to ruin my life. And I was like, and I promise you that. And he responded back to me, and he's like, I didn't hurt my family, Nikki. And that was, like, the last text. That was the last time we ever talked. And I never said another word to him after that.
It's been over 5 years since the murders occurred, and it's no secret to anyone that spreading complete horse shit about Nichol Kessinger is how the fake crime channels thrive. And there's also absolutely no doubt about it. My smoking hot video that you just watched lived up to the worldwide hype it received. And now it's your turn to tell me why Behind Criminal Minds failed to show you the police records from the discovery that he forensically evaluated that proved the police knew about Nichol Kessinger no later than 2 or 11 p.m. on Tuesday. And I'll see you in my next worldwide award-winning video. Now watch this to see who really needs to be investigated in this case.
I am very calm when I talk to people. It's like extremely rational when I handle situations.